Welcome back. Now, if you're anything like us, you've probably read Pride and Prejudice maybe, what, a dozen times. But today, we're digging into it again, looking through the lens of a really insightful new review.
Yeah, offer some fresh takes.
Exactly. So our mission here is to pull out the key ideas and figure out why this novel, written way back in 1813, still feels so incredibly relevant. So, okay, let's unpack this. The review asks, how does a book about, 19th century English gentry stay so huge for over 200 years? What's the secret sauce?
Well, what's really interesting is how the review argues Austen uses those tight social rules of the time, not just as scenery, but actually to push the characters to grow.
Ah, so the constraints force the development.
Precisely. The review says its lasting power comes from looking deep into, well, human mistakes and the capacity to change. It starts with Elizabeth Bennet, strong, smart, witty,
The quick to judge.
definitely quick to judge. And then Mr. Darcy, who's rich but seems incredibly proud. And they kick off with this real mutual dislike.
Right, so it's not just your standard rom-com setup then. The review seems to think there's more going on in that initial friction.
Oh, absolutely. The review really zooms in on Austen's use of something called free indirect discourse.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's a clever writing trick. It sort of blends Elizabeth's own thoughts and feelings, her biases, right into the narration. So you're basically inside her head.
Ah, so that's why her initial prejudice against Darcy feels so real to us, the readers.
Exactly. You experience her judgments directly, which makes it incredibly powerful when she later realizes, wait, I got him wrong.
Mm.
And I got myself wrong. It's left plot device more psychological journey.
That makes sense. It gives her realization so much more weight. But the review doesn't just stop at Lizzie and Darcy's personal stuff, right? It talks about Austen's broader social commentary.
Yeah, it does. It really dissects the whole marriage market thing. How for women then, it was basically about economic security.
Like Charlotte Lucas choosing Mr. Collins.
Exactly. Her very practical choice. Or even Collins's ridiculous proposals. The review highlights these as Austen's way of poking fun, but also showing the really limited options women had. It's satire, but it's biting.
Sharp commentary hidden beneath the wit. That's a great point. It reminds you there's a real critique running underneath the charm.
For sure.
So if it's so tied up in 19th century England, why does the review argue it still speaks to us now, 2 centuries on?
The review puts it really well. It talks about this universal struggle with what it calls epistemological humility.
Okay. Big phrase. What does that mean in plain English?
It's basically about realizing our first impressions, our initial takes on things are often wrong, flawed. And that real understanding means we have to, shed our own biases, let go of assumptions.
And both Elizabeth and Darcy have to do that.
Absolutely. Darcy has to get over his pride, his class snobbery, and Elizabeth has to see past her first impressions, her prejudice. That whole process, challenging your own flaws, rethinking your assumptions, that's timeless. That's why it still hits home.
Yeah, I see that. This deep dive really shows how Pride and Prejudice is so much more than just a love story, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's got this sharp social critique, psychological depth, and it's ultimately about, well, people changing and growing. This review really brought that out.
Yeah, and I think what the review ultimately gets at is Austen's genius, her ability to explore these very human flaws and this journey of growth with such, wit and accuracy. That's why these characters and their lessons still feel so relevant.
It's a powerful reminder about personal evolution, so maybe something for you to think about. What Pride or Prejudice, big or small, might be shaping how you see things right now. And perhaps, what could you discover if you looked past those first appearances?